On today's episode of We Have This Game at Home, I reveal the best NES arcade ports money can buy, Part 1. All killer, no filler. Before we hit play on today's episode, please take a moment to like, subscribe, share, comment down below. And remember, if you aren't retro gaming, what are you doing? Here we go. Donkey Kong Jr. Although I'm way more of a Donkey Kong guy than a Donkey Kong Jr. guy, I have to give credit where credit is due, and DK Jr. on the NES is pure arcade perfection. Turning the original concept on its ear and making the hero, now named Mario, the bad guy, while having DK's son come to the rescue was a pretty cool idea back then. Here's the arcade version in all of its glory. I mean, just feast your eyes on that for a sec. Remember that? How great is that? Now let's bring in the NES version side by each. Look at that. I mean, come on. The only thing you're getting at home that'll beat that is MAME. All the levels are here, unlike Donkey Kong, which was missing the conveyor belt level, hence why it's not on this list. And some say it was missing on purpose so Nintendo wouldn't be competing with its arcade moneymaker. Elevator action. Full disclosure, I've been on thousands of elevators in my life and zero action. Whoever thought to put those two things together and make an arcade game out of it, well, goody for you, that was pretty smart. It's a simple concept. Get Agent 17, Otto, from the top of a 30-level skyscraper to the parking garage while retrieving secret files and murdering everyone you find who's dressed similarly. Okay, and I guess they're also shooting at you. I've plugged a lot of quarters into this game over the years, and it was always action-packed. I think it took me a couple of years before I realized you could shoot out the lights, and I know I'm not the only one. Now let's bring in the NES version. Wow, I mean seriously close. This is one awesome looking and playing home console port. Taito, a winner is you. Still hoping for escalator action, or even better, stair lift action for when I'm older. Popeye. I already featured this game in the previous episode of We Have This Game at Home, and so I'm not going to go on and on about how great the NES port of this Shigeru Miyamoto classic is. I think it's actually almost better because of the ability to climb the ladder in the dock stage. I mean, serious upgrade in my opinion. Popeye looks, plays, sounds, and feels magical on the NES. You want 22 minutes of me waxing poetic about Popeye? Check out the director's cut of We Have Popeye at Home, available on this channel. Rolling Thunder. Tengen, you magnificent SOBs, you did it again. Namco's arcade hit Rolling Thunder was a side-scrolling secret agent game that featured large sprites, great leaping and ducking mechanics, tight controls, danger at every step, and tons of colorful yet evil henchmen hell-bent on taking your character, Albatross, out of commission while he tried to save Agent Layla. Naturally, anyone who wasn't a moron would want to play this game at home, so Tengen to the 8-bit rescue as they published a North American NES version, which was developed by Arc System Works. How Arc managed to jam everything from the arcade into the NES port is beyond me, but they did. Capcom also decided to get on some Rolling Thunder action and published Codename Viper on the NES, which was so identical in feel to Rolling Thunder, I literally wrote to Capcom in the 80s calling Codename Viper
mockery of a sham, a mockery of a travesty of two mockeries of a sham.
I was incensed that I spent $50 on a game that felt so derivative of Namco's classic. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are a little after my time, so this is going to be from memory, but I think you got like Leonardo DiCaprio and Sally Jesse Raphael, Donatello Versace, and Michelangelina Jolie, and they got to rescue like Ed O'Neill and Tom Clancy's Splinter from Shreddy Vetter from Pearl Jam. Whatever. That's all the impetus you need to embark on this colorful, bombastic arcade beat-em-up. What Konami accomplished with the NES version is a similar enough experience to the arcade, albeit with some changes that I'd argue actually give the home version more replayability than the arcade. Given the decision to only allow 3 continues compared to the arcade's endless insert coin money pit, you know what I'm talking about, and there's also new levels and extra bosses, and if you dropped $50 on this 30 years ago, you'd want some bang for your buck. Yes, there are level differences as mentioned, and some altered moves, and only 2 players, but since there was zero chance you were getting an actual TMNT arcade game in your home back in 1990, this would definitely tide you over, and let's face it, you probably only had one other friend. Marble Madness. Developed as an arcade title by Mark Cerny for Atari Games in 1984, Marble Madness utilized a trackball to maneuver your marble around a series of 6 increasingly difficult courses in an attempt to reach the end before the time limit ran out. The gameplay is as addicting as you can get and was definitely the precursor to future hits such as Sega's Super Monkey Ball. Our pals Rare, who weren't yet quite the household name when they ported Cerny's Marble Madness to the NES, did an absolutely stellar job, considering that the NES D-pad doesn't resemble a trackball in look or feel at all. Aside from a very few minute differences, Marble Madness is arcade perfection on the NES. All of the levels, challenge, design, and feel is here. Arcanoid. I love Arcanoid, and I seriously love this game since the first moment I discovered it in a small-town bar in Geraldton, Ontario in 1988 while playing in a band there. The gameplay is a serious evolution from Atari's Breakout and Super Breakout ball games that adds numerous power-ups and enemies to make this game a thrill ride. The story about your spaceship named Vaus being lost in space and having to shoot colorful blocks until you reach the level 36 boss named is obviously wackadoodle and brought to you by copious amounts of 80s Coke.
No taste of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, sure. That kind of Coke. Taito wisely packaged the NES home version with an actual spinner controller to emulate the real feel of the coin-op original. Sadly, I've owned one, but it didn't work. But I'm happy to report that the D-pad controller is more than original facsimile for the arcade spinner, as the gameplay is slowed down just enough to emulate the feel of the game. And yeah, of course, it does help if you learn to anticipate the physics and angles of that ball. And that's it for part 1 of We Have the Best NES Arcade Ports at Home. Stay tuned for part 2 coming soon, and we'll catch you next time, friends.
A winner is you. Productions.